to madman, stage left. The audience rises and holds their breath. They let the vampires into their house, pretend they don't see when the teeth come out. Put a band-aid on their throat. No one wants to rock the boat, and no one wants to talk about it. You're not supposed to talk about it. Rises and the players come out. Webs of lies spinning from their mouths. Stop looking, listen for a little while. Pay no attention to the men behind the curtain. Just look away when you see the blood spurting down to a steady drill. I promise to leave you a little bit. I'll be back for another drink tomorrow. I love the taste of your terror and your sorrow bathing in your blood. It's never enough. Program reality, double thing, duality. Put upon the face of all mankind. Our numbers up and the dead for a time. Go along to get along. Hypnotized by the siren song.
Oh, man. Hello and welcome to the Iron Mountain Hour. It is Wednesday. It is January the 4th, 2023. Coming to you live here from Carter County, Tennessee, in the foothills of the Iron Mountain. My name is Cliff. I'm connected with Tim via Skype. What's going on, Tim? Who you got in your ear there, buddy? I was wondering what that scream was. Was that you or the cell phone? Because it was possessed. Okay. Got my lighting set up wrong. I have to fix my hat so you can see my pretty face. Well, I like when my music can elicit such response. And it's good to have you with us. I hope it didn't elicit that much of a pain response from you, but if it did, maybe you can share it with somebody you don't like and elicit the same response. But listen, real quick before we get started in the news and current events tonight, I did want to tell you I have officially and successfully created a Rumble channel. So you can go to rumble.com and search for our channel, the Iron Mountain Hour. Now this time don't do it all one word. It's spread out, sub to that. And it's a brand new channel. It's got our American flag or our Tennessee flag profile picture, so you can spot us easily, the Iron Mountain Hour on rumble.com, or you can download the app on your phone and get to us that way. That way, we're not going to be live streaming on there yet, but it'll basically act as an archive. It'll auto-download everything that we do on YouTube, and then eventually I think you have to have 100 subscribers over there before you can live stream. So once we get up to that, I'll mix that in with the YouTube stream. We'll go out to both platforms at once. And then we can basically have our cake and eat it too, I guess, because one of the main purposes of the channel, and it's not really necessarily journalism, it's commentary on journalism more than anything, is to point out some, pieces of news that I feel are noteworthy that are not getting the discussion that I feel like they should, mainly in relation to the for lack of a better word, the global technocracy that is insidiously inching its way into all of our lives via all of our electronic devices, and now all the way down to local governments and power authorities, and the likes of smart poles, smart electric devices, smart electric meters, basically making the whole grid smart and everything a part of it. And more or less, it's looking like you're going to have to be plugged into all that stuff if you want to exist in society. And I feel like everything is plenty intrusive right now. So I think if we could just stop that right there, but I think a lot of people really maybe don't even care. But anyway, on YouTube, I'm trying to reach folks who maybe haven't realized this yet, that a lot of these things are happening, and explain the significance of it, but not in a way that sounds nutty or conspiracy theory. Like, these are all, we do discuss conspiracy theories on here, but we try to be pretty skeptical and open-minded at the same time. We try to look at the valid points that any side may make, and Tim likes to poke holes in me if I get a little too crazy there, and then sometimes he likes to go even crazier than I do. But at the end of the day, we're just theorizing here, and we make that clear, and there's other things that we know for sure, and we try to just tell you the difference and explain the different things. But if we go to Rumble, where we can say whatever we want, and we don't have to worry about being labeled for misinformation for one thing or another, whether it be a political opinion, even, you can be labeled, it can be labeled misinformation. Your video can be struck. That happens 3 times, your channel's gone and all your content's gone. So we run that risk with YouTube, especially with some of the topics we like to discuss when we get into things that they may want to cite us for medical misinformation or election misinformation. You should read YouTube's policy on election misinformation. It's pretty insane. I explained it to Tim, and yeah, he thought his thought was, well, now I think all those things are real because you don't want me to talk about them. But at any rate, yeah. Well, I'm saying we like to put it out there. We like to be silly. We like to have fun. We want it to be entertaining. Because if I'm just bringing you straight news of all the scary crap that you see in the world and just kind of commenting on that, it's a bit of a downer for a channel. And then you find yourself just combing the news for all the worst stories and putting them out there. And I'm not all about bringing the vibrational energy down. I like to keep it in a good place. I like to keep things hopeful. I'm white peeled, as they say. I'm hopeful for the future of humanity, but I think a big part of it is conversations like these, which a lot of people are afraid to have in public, but they feel more inclined to do so online anonymously. Well, that's fine, but I'd like to find people locally who want to have those conversations too, and around the world. So if you know anybody that might enjoy the content, please send it to them. Like, share, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Subscribe to the Rumble page, and let's have a good time talking. And another big part of it is I want to hear your perspective. What are you thinking about it? What are we missing from the story? What is everybody else missing from the story? We will be implementing in the near future a call-in feature, but it requires an upgrade to the studio. So we'll get around that when we get around to it. But for right now, we'll continue having you in the chat, your comments, and emailing the channel at theironmountainhour@gmail.com. All helps add to the conversation, makes the show better. Some of our best ideas for shows we've gotten from listeners, and some of the most popular ideas have come from people contacting us via email and and chat, so comments. So definitely don't be afraid to jump in there and mix it up. Do it anonymously if you want to. We still welcome your opinion. And with that, Tim, you see anything in the news lately that has caught your attention? Hmm. Mm-hmm. That's what made me think of it, was Tamagotchi, or even a Furby was kind of the, a little bit more advanced version of that. Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. It was actually pretty wild considering one of my kids had some back whenever they first came out with the digital versions. You know, originally they had one. Um, what's up, Dalton? What's happening in the chat? Oh man, I can't hear Tim. What the hell, man? All right, now let me know if you can hear Tim.
Well, that's good since you've been doing most of the talking so far, right?
Yeah, I have. Hopefully you can hear him. Let us know, chat. What's up, Pumpkin Spice? Yeah, the Furby man, they're pretty wild. Tim was talking about digital. He was talking about Tamagotchis, and he was talking about how they are. He's seeing a lot of ads. That sucks, man. You can't hear Tim now. All right. Sorry about that, y'all. Well, tell us real quick about the. I swear to God, this program wants me to do things different every time I do it. I have to go back and undo it each time. But Tim, tell us what you were talking about, the ad that you were seeing on everything. What's up, Anna?
AI friend. It's called Replica. There's multiple companies. There's apps, and I mean I know where it's going. It'd be kind of like the I don't know, was it the newest Blade Runner where he has a digital girlfriend? It's just a hologram. But I'm saying it's better to have, I guess, a fake partner than no partner at all. But I ain't that really sad though. That was my whole point.
Yeah,
Was just that we're all gonna be sitting around talking to fake people, kind of like very very advanced Tamagotchi pets. You know.
dude. What if Pumpkin Spice is an AI?
I think that I've theorized half seriously that there's multiple internet celebrity people that are just AIs, especially the ones that are faceless, because there's a lot of people that just don't have faces, you know.
Yeah.
You know, you could probably debunk that if I did some decent detective work, but I choose to live in this reality, and it's a good one, where I don't know who's not real.
Pumpkin Spice said semi-sentient pet rock. Yeah, that's about right. And there was we were talking about the Furbies. Those things were pretty wild when you put them together. When they first came out, they came out I think in the '90s, and then about 10 years later, they came back out with a digital version. And somebody got my son a couple of them. And the batteries always died before they would get very smart, but it was kind of crazy how they would learn, and they could their speech would evolve over a few days, and they would start cavorting together, and they would try to communicate with you in some way or another. I don't have any idea what they said because the batteries always died too quick, and you put the new batteries in, they didn't work like they would. They lost all their memory, but it was still pretty. Do what?
Have you seen the Furby Choir?
No.
It's a guy. It's a really good channel. I can't remember the name of the channel now. It's a UK based synth guy that I know. I've sent Goff this video. I have to. The video that I first came onto him was where he turned I think it was a Sega Genesis or maybe it was a Super Nintendo into the sound brain unit of a MIDI or like a keyboard, so he could access all the crazy sounds of a Genesis or a Super Nintendo. But then he started getting into like some really weird stuff where he programmed a synth unit to play. I think it was like 88 Furbies, one for each note, and they would just. It was just this giant choir of Furbies. It looked like a Stephen King horror movie, and they would all just sit there and play as he was.
Yeah, that sounds creepy.
What was it? The Langoliers or the puppets came alive and ate the lady.
What was that? No, that was the Tommy Knockers, wasn't it?
Tommy Knockers. Yeah. Langoliers was the teethy monsters.
Yeah, they ate the past. That would have been appropriate to discuss on our New Year's Day episode, wouldn't it? With where we're talking about Janus and the two-faced God facing into the past and the present and always in the future.
I thought that was one of those movies that, like I said, I don't read much because of dyslexia, but the movie of that, the concept was pretty good, but I think looking back was probably one of those movies that because it was such a beginning era of low budget CGI that it just would not date well.
Yeah.
It's just little human beings, and all of a sudden the monsters pop up and they're like PlayStation 1 era graphics.
Yeah, they looked pretty cool to me, but yeah, now looking back at them, they probably don't.
Look back on them now, and you were probably just hypnotized by the movie.
Yeah. And I would watch anything Stephen King when I was a kid, man. Especially, and I started reading Stephen King when I was about 10. I swiped a copy of Pet Sematary from my neighbor's house and borrowed that for a little while and read that and was scared of the dark for a little while. But then I went to the library and got it, and then I just started reading everything and watching all the Stephen King I could.
Yeah, well, Stephen King, not unlike a lot of good authors, or even bad authors too, have had the fortune and misfortune of having a lot of their works turned into movies. And at that point, you don't really have much say whether it's going to be a turd or not.
Yeah.
You know, like I know he wasn't happy about The Shining, but there's no way in the world he was happy about The Langoliers.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, I mean, the made-for-TV ones were different. They were kind of a special kind of turd, except for The Stand, man. The Stand still holds up. I watched the new Stand that Paramount Plus put out, and it was god-awful. It was 10 hours long. It had so much nonsense in it, but it still didn't even develop the characters to the degree that the original one did in like 6 hours. And you didn't like the characters you were supposed to like. You didn't care about the characters. That was the worst part of it. The acting was good, but they just did such a poor job on setting up all the scenes and making you care about anything. Just didn't. Hell, I wanted them to die. I didn't like any of the characters. It felt like a long drawn out poor attempt at a John Carpenter nihilism films, you know, like The Thing or Prince of Darkness, something like that.
Yeah, well, but like even in like The Thing, it's like even if you don't really care about the characters, it still makes you feel hopeless for
Mm-hmm.
them. You know, but like some directors fail to capture that.
Yeah.
What'd you think about
Sean liked the original Stand.
I haven't seen it. I haven't watched it. What would you think about the differences? I know they're completely different, but like, what'd you think about the different It movies?
Well, I loved the original one, original miniseries. Thought they did about the best job that they could have to capture
At the
that
time.
novel. Yeah, I think they did a great job. The acting was great. The effects were great. The story was very, very close to the novel. Um, the new one, the first one came out, and it was a new take on it. It was very different. I was very impressed by it. I liked it a lot. One of the things that really struck me about it was how the perspective, because you got to remember Pennywise, he's feeding on fear and he's feeding on the imagination of these children, and
Mhm.
I love the way that they made the monsters look like they were from a child's perspective. Like they didn't really understand how, you know, certain things work, so the monster reflected that. And when the monster came out of, especially when he came out of the screen, I really felt like that scene was just great. I mean, good jump scare, but just you know, you can really feel the character's terror.
Jumped out of the screen.
Yeah, and they didn't here and see. Here's a lot of people will accuse people of being like a purist when somebody criticizes a Stephen King book or movie or anybody's movie that doesn't follow the novel. But I'll tell you what, the remake of the first part took a lot of liberties with the source material, but it was great. It didn't matter. It stuck true to the original feeling of the novel and the original miniseries. And I didn't feel like the second part did that. I was really disappointed. I went to the theater and saw both parts and was really excited after the first one because I went in expecting it to be a turd, and because so many remakes are. But then it came out so well, and so I was super psyched to go to the theater to see the next part, and was really let down. I barely even remember it because I disliked it so much. Let's see, we got some.
Actually,
Do what?
yeah. So I actually haven't watched the second part of the first It yet. I was gonna say on the first It, uh, what I did think they did appropriate with it was like one of the few books I actually have read. Um, it's like in the book he wasn't a clown all that he wasn't a clown quite as much.
Mhm.
You know, like
Yeah,
he was a clown when he would first see him, but then he would manifest into what that individual person would fear.
Mhm. And then he would have
They-
like a button on or a red nose on the werewolf or something. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, he would have a sign of the clown, but he was mostly the monster.
Well, kind of like I thought the worst one or the I guess scariest one was the Jewish kid who got his face bitten
Mhm.
by the painting lady or whatever that was. Uh, but I think the only reason they could, if I looked it up correctly, it's been quite a while ago now. Somebody said that the main reason they didn't do that in the made-for-TV series was budget. They just couldn't afford to be transferred, like making more costumes for Tim Curry as it was. They was already having to transfer him into a giant
I can
spider
see
and
that. Well,
a face. They said
if you watch it again, he actually does come out as several different monsters, and
In the house, they really ever like they don't really show the thing that's in the house, the him that they jump on the bicycle to get away
yeah,
from. It's kind of like just kind of like
true.
a I don't know, zombie
It's a werewolf, but you don't
Frankenstein.
really see it much.
Yeah, whereas in the newer one they had a bigger budget they could work with. A lot of those things in the are actually I think in the book. Like I know the hobo guy that's with the it's all diseased where his nose falls off or something. I'm pretty sure that was in
The
there.
leper, yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Let me catch up in the chat real quick. We got Sean. He liked the first version of The Stand, and he did read the book, and he liked the first version of The Shining. I saw the remake probably about 2001 or two, something like that, maybe three. I didn't care for that. Sean liked the first It and thought Tim Curry was the best Pennywise, and Pumpkin Spice, she concurs with that. And she liked it even though John Boy was in it. I thought John Boy was good in that, man. Stuttering Bill.
As soon as she said that, I thought ponytail.
Yeah. Well, he always ends up being an author, doesn't he? That kid's never going to play anything but an author.
Well, yeah.
Let's see.
Analogies and all that it and stuff that I mean like I guess not really spoiler alert since everybody knows about that it is child trauma,
Hmm.
you know. I always thought that was just a really blunt way of putting it because I read that when I was like in high school and I didn't get it until I was like I don't know, it was like 30. I was like, oh, it's child trauma. I get it now. It comes
Yeah.
back. That's crazy.
Yep, that's right.
But it's an analogy or metaphor. Either one, it's a good example of it.
It'd be a metaphor, but yeah, I think you're right. And yeah, well, I won't go into what I was about to say because it's a whole nother ball of wax. Yeah, John can't stand looking at John Boy's mold. Yeah, he can't help it. Yeah, it's kind of amazing that people, I mean, he was not honestly that great of an actor. To me anyway, he was okay. He was passable, but kind of odd that they would pick someone with such a visible mole.
Well, it's I'm sure it wasn't due to the rampant nepotism in Hollywood. Surely not.
What was his real name? Gosh, I can't think of it now. I like the
I
Waltons
don't.
though.
What else was he in besides the Waltons? And it,
Heck, I can't even think right now.
just the Waltons that he was really famous for.
Yeah, the Waltons is what I know him from, and I actually liked that show. They had the one that was kind of surprising where the dad was like everybody wanted him to go to church, and it's the whole community. They realized, oh, Paul Walton, he's a pretty good old feller, even if he didn't like going to church, and that was his business to go to church if he didn't want to. That's kind of when was that show, in the 80s, early 80s? No, it was I guess the 70s because John Boy was still pretty young and he was full grown in it. Richard Thomas, thank you, Sean.
I never watched the Waltons, but I'm sure that if we had, my dad would have hated that.
Yeah, now I don't think it probably went over good in a lot of places, but yeah, I thought that was a pretty good episode. But
But ain't that such a vanilla pudding stance? Now that you think
Yeah.
I know like everything is ridiculous looking back on, but that's just a funny stance. How dramatic that would be.
yeah,
He doesn't want to go to church.
yeah, the whole family,
Oh,
the
no.
whole family in the whole town is like, why didn't he go to church? What's wrong? The
funny.
family was on him, and then everybody realizes that he's a hard working man who takes care of his family, loves his wife, helps his community.
Maybe we ought to just leave him alone.
Yep. Well, let's look into the news just a little bit here. So we had a Twitter files come out. So we've had several of them come out, and I'm about afraid to even say what they realized on account of getting the knock there for the misinformation when I didn't break their policy. Anyway. Let's
About the critter files.
what's that?
So, well, then tell us about the critter files.
Well, I don't know about Critter Files, but this would fit the bill. You remember we were talking a few weeks ago about how there was the attack on the power substation over in Moore County, North Carolina, and there were gunshots or there were bullet holes in some of the equipment there, as much as they released as far as the specifics of it. But there were people who were saying that it had to do with a drag show over there. There was supposedly an all ages drag show, or I don't even think it was all ages. I think it was just a drag show. And at any rate, there were people who blamed that attack over there on the substations on people trying to shut out the power to that drag show. And there was another one right after that, another power substation that was attacked with gunfire. And apparently there have been several over the country, and it's not really hit much of the news. You can see it on the local news, but you don't really see it on national news. And kind of like with the food plant fires. And yeah, I know those things do happen, and the rate wasn't really that accelerated. Those things are actually pretty common to have fires and accident in big agricultural and industrial facilities like that. But there was an uptick in them last year, and with the amount of those facilities that we have, it is significant. But you didn't see it being reported, and you kind of don't see this one being reported either about the attacks on the substations. But this one caught my attention from Pierce County, Washington. I remembered seeing this around the time it was right after the one in North Carolina, and these fellers right here, and you got to see these photos to believe them, were arrested in connection to the attacks on the Pierce County substations. I don't want to watch the video. I just want to show the photos. Let's see here. And we're looking here at Pierce County in Washington. So this is in, this is over in eastern Washington. So, or I guess central Washington. At any rate, these are the guns they found on the guys. Look at this. I bet they didn't file their tax stamps on those. Can you see them, Tim?
I can, but what's significant other than
Well,
like the tape?
well, there's a shitty old sawed-off bolt-action shotgun, and
Okay.
some kind of shitty old rifle with the stock sawed off and the barrel sawed off. Those are, some of the things that is interestingly enough, with the short-barreled rifle, you actually have to file if your barrel on your rifle is under 16 inches. You have to file a paperwork with the ATF in order to own that firearm, and you have to alert them of if it goes across the state line or not. But needless to say, very few people who do that are committing crimes. Yet old boys out here committing crimes, they just saw theirs right off. They don't give a shit. But it's just ghetto ass fire. I mean, this is like not even trailer park level. This is like you stole them out of somebody's granny shack 50 years ago and threw them in the back of a truck and just found them and cut them up with a hacksaw. I mean, this is meth head gunsmithing is what this is. But let's check out these fellers right here. And there's one of the fellers. And here they are on the camera. I mean, I guess he could have shaved his head, but it really don't even look like the same dude. But they're carrying their little short rifles and shotguns there. There's the power station where they're working on. It's going to cost $3 million and take 36 months to repair that power station there. They were in court on Tuesday for conspiracy to damage energy facilities and could face up to 20 to 30 years because they had these. It says possession of an unregistered firearm, but you don't actually have to register a regular firearm. But it's because it's a short-barreled shotgun and a short-barreled rifle that would fall into any other weapons category where you would have to pay a $200 fee, pay a $200 infringement, and check it in with the state there. But the FBI served a search warrant over the weekend, and they found clothes that matched the dude's clothes in the men's homes, and then, they found the clothes in the homes that matched the surveillance video, and that fake that homemade silencer that they made there that was on the end of that one gun, and the local people are like, I guess it could be like domestic terrorism. Well, I guess so, but turns out, you know what they were trying to do? They were trying to rob a local business, so they shut off the power to rob a local business.
So they like blew almost an entire town's power out so they could rob one place.
Well, this is what they told the law. I mean, I guess they could have some nefarious plan where there's some criminal masterminds, but just to look at the guys, I'm thinking like, okay, one or two scenarios. Either one, they truly were going to rob the local porn store or the local sex doll shop, or whatever, and or the local cigarette store. Um,
See,
the what?
Cliff knows what to rob, folks. He knows where the money's at. Sex and cigarettes.
Hey, what can you say? What was that movie? Gosh, where the dude was in? Oh yeah, it was Beverly Hills Cop. Eddie Murphy running with the big truck of cigarettes. It's Axel Foley knew what was up. Um, the but yeah, this fella here. So one scenario, either that they're really breaking in there and they're dumb enough to tell the cops their whole plan, and or they were dumb enough to hatch that plan and tell the cops about it, or two, it's like, well, what if there's something else going on at these substations, because there are several of them. I mean, over country, look it up. You have to look through local news. It won't be on a lot of national news. But several power substations have been getting attacked like this. So what if you're trying to draw attention away from that? What if there's something going on with that, and you send these guys up here to do something at the same time and get caught, and they, oh well, it's just a bunch of meth heads robbing local businesses, and that's where my tinfoil hat comes on. But at the same time, as it might sound a little bit crazy, but all the things we've learned over the years that they have done, I would not be surprised. It sounds a little crazy, but the stuff like that happens all the time. Sean here, let's see. Spill, hey, thank you for making it. She says they're having a big storm. Yeah, we had some rain today, but not like y'all are getting out there. And Sean, Christmas, he's talking about the Christmas Day attacks on the power station. Yeah, that's what. So yeah. So we got those two. What was their angle? Yeah, they said they were breaking into the business, and this one was let's see here. So these are quite a bit away from Tacoma. Is that the same ones you're talking about, Sean? These ones here on the Hemlock substation, Graham. They're southeast of Tacoma. Is that the ones you're talking about, Sean? Let me know in the chat, please, sir. Yeah, I don't know what their angle was, but I thought that was strange, especially, I mean, like I said, you can Google it and find all the different power substations. There's people made videos about it. So I'm not going to get into all that tonight, but.
Snake crawled into it.
What's that?
So remember that time ours went out because a snake crawled into it?
No, I didn't. Is that what happened?
Yeah. Yeah, the one right down here by the water department. Like, that thing went out for a while, and it turned out a black snake that just wiggled its way into some spots it shouldn't have been.
I'm kidding.
Opted. I mean, it wasn't out for too long, but like an hour
Yeah.
for them to figure out it was a snake burning up in one of their sections. My whole thing is, why are those things just so exposed?
I don't know. I mean, I guess.
All those, around about anywhere, and find I guess I could ask Grant. I mean, I know a guy who helps operate one of those big things. I just need to ask him, but like, dude, why are these big killer Tesla coils just sitting right out in the open? Like,
Yeah, it seems like
squirrel. It seems like a suicidal person could hop the fence and go out really wild. That's all.
Yeah,
Don't get any idea.
seems like they'd want to put them underground or something. I don't know. I don't guess you can. I don't know. Can you really put them inside? I mean,
Just like think of like a gazebo or something, even like an open air with like a top over them or something, or maybe the elements just don't impact electrical equipment like that.
yeah, Pumpkin says it's a good learning opportunity to make the essential services more secure. That's a good point. Yeah. I mean, really, realistically, if you run a power substation anywhere in this country, you should be paying attention to this story. I'm looking at you, Appalachian Electric Power, TVA. Y'all hear me? I mean, if it's been happening in several places, we don't want to let that happen here. So hopefully the good folks there at those power facilities are keeping their eye on it.
I just think they should start burying power lines as well.
Yeah, dude, I'm right there with you. Like, why are they above the ground?
That would be more educated. Somebody knows a lot more about it. But I mean, the amount of power lines that go down because of electricity, because of snow, especially, and just wind. It seems like especially since every time they go up there, they got to have like people with these giant cranes and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, why not set up a system of like, we're already putting like all the water and stuff underground. Why not just put them next to each other? I mean, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It just seems like it makes sense.
Yeah, same here, man. Just put a pipe in there with all the wires in it, seal it off, and have access points where you can jump down there and fix what you need to, and That's why they do it.
Yeah, it's like the service that's in the air. Why not put? I mean, there's gas running almost every neighborhood in this area too. So you've already got gas pipelines, you got water pipelines. Why not just sound like a butthole, I guess, but why not just put the wires down there with
Yeah,
them?
it'd be a lot harder for somebody. I've had people crash into power lines up here and knock them out, and um, all kinds of different stuff. Let's.
Would that be the worst thing ever though if there was a water leak and then the power lines are down there though?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Is that why?
Yeah, maybe, but I
Maybe
mean, it seems like they would be able to. I mean, to put it in a secure pipeline and seal it off. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's a possibility.
rains too, so maybe not.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not
You
educated
know,
enough. That's just always what made sense to me. But if somebody in the chat can enlighten us, I'm sure there's.
dude, ever since I was a kid, it just baffled me that there was just these giant. I don't know, maybe I'm mentally ill, but like ever since I was a kid, I'd look outside and I'd be like, look at this beautiful summer day, and there's sticks with giant strings going across, just ruining every view. And the more civilization you go towards, the more sticks with strings you see. And it's just they never fit. Like it's the most like you can look at old houses like from across different cultures, how they kind of like mix in with the environment, like the Japanese houses that go with the mountains, and even like those German Swiss houses that go with the mountains. Like there's no place where electrical cables look like they fit. They just look alien,
Yeah.
and I don't like them. I've never liked electrical cables. I think they're ugly.
Oh, I agree.
Wah.
Yeah, well, dude, when you're trying to enjoy some scenery or when we're trying to take a photograph, it is always awful to see. I hate seeing the cell towers up there and seeing the electrical power lines everywhere. And I'll tell you what, when they disguise those cell towers as trees, it's no better. Um,
Yeah, the criminal's like a flower pot on his head trying to hide.
yeah.
You know.
Well,
They have a big one out there at Death Valley, and it's just like Jesus, that's the biggest cactus ever. I think it would be better if you just left it robotic looking.
yeah, no shit. Well, let's see. We got some local news here. We had some hikers over there. This is from WJHL. Some hikers were rescued from the National Forest. They were on the Appalachian Trail over in the Chuckey area, down towards Greenville, south of Johnson City, on in the National Forest there, and the Sampson. No, the Sampson. It might be the State Forest, the Sampson Forest. My story's not wanting to load, but the
Would this count as 411?
I beg
Is that what that is?
I beg pardon.
So would that count as a 411?
Well, I mean, they
People
rescued him, so no, I wouldn't think it would because they didn't actually go
missed.
missing. They got lost, and then they were able to call and let people know where they are.
Okay, I heard that story different. Never mind.
At least that was my understanding. I'm having a hard time here because I read the story today, but there we go. It's finally pulled up here. Yeah, they were on the Cherokee National Forest. They were in the Cherokee National Forest on New Year's Eve. They had to pull out the Air National or the was it the Air National Guard or the Army National Guard? Let's see. Yeah, the assault. Yeah, Tennessee just says Tennessee National Guardsmen. But they was I guess it was the State Guard that rescued two Appalachian trail hikers, and this was on New Year's Eve, and they got stranded with cliffs all around them, and the Tennessee Military Department and Tennessee Emergency Management Agency were notified at 5:15 a.m. and left Knoxville about 8 that morning and got them out of there 9 a.m. and they were taken to the hospital, but had minor injuries. But it's a pretty tight spot here. Let's look at where they were at here. If Google Earth will even pull up, because I'm getting lots of wheelie spinnies on the internet here. But
Too.
hopefully we're still streaming out pretty good. Sometimes the upstream.
I think people because they've been commenting and stuff, and I've not really had a chance to watch the stream for more than 5 seconds. I've just left it alone.
Yep. How embarrassing. What, to get airlifted, or what do you mean? Yeah, I would be embarrassed though if I had to.
Yeah.
Had to get helicoptered out by the National Guard. Let's see if we can get some Google Earth up here. Man, download stream must just be, my download speed must be super bad. I guess I'm using all my bandwidth. Hey Comcast, let's get this stuff in order. I'm able to see Tim pretty good, but I guess he's using all my bandwidth. But anyway, I guess we can, if you look up the Sampson National Forest or the Cherokee National Forest, Sampson Wilderness area, you can find that area, and they were in quite the peril. But I mean, I was gonna go into it, but there's Google Earth. Let's see here. Well, I'll just pause for the cause briefly and let that load for a second. And maybe it'll actually work. And if you're having a drink with us, not what are you drinking? You drinking coffee, Mountain Dew? You drinking a beer?
Well,
Dalton, what are you
well,
serving at the liquor store? Go ahead, Tim.
well, I said it's Wednesday, and then you asked Dalton what he had at the liquor store, so it's Wednesday. I'm just drinking Dr.
Oh,
Pepper.
okay. I thought you were starting on a diatribe. All right. Well,
No, no, I'm a bar musician. Good God, if I drank throughout the week, my liver would just dissolve. Because you can't turn people down. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
And everyone like want to buy you things.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
yeah. They'll never come to your show again if they try to buy them a drink and you're like, no, no.
it's just a part of, I guess, being a good entertainer,
Yeah.
or even just to their night of entertainment. A lot of those people I'll never see it. Most of those people I'll never see it again. And then there's about 15 to 20% of the people that'll come back and see me about once every other month or so. I
Yeah.
mean, and I'm thankful for that. So I'll never give anybody a hard time. I'm glad people that do come out. But part of it is just like when you're like a friend, like if you invite somebody over to your house or something.
Hmm.
I mean, and you do it to each other when we come over. We offer each other something to drink or something like that. It's just something. So if you're in a place where they're serving wine, liquor, anything across the board, if you find somebody that you're vibing with, you want to buy them something. So
Pumpkin spice, cinnamon roll shine from Mellow Moon. That sounds good. I'm not a big fan of the flavored shines necessarily, but that sounds pretty good. Um, yeah, I'd drink that. I mostly like kind of straight whiskeys and liquors, but when I do like a tainted one from now every now and then, and I don't mind something like Fireball or something, but it's definitely not my favorite. But that cinnamon roll moonshine sounds pretty good. From out there, the folks at Mellow Moon at the East Tennessee Distillery, where our main man Wilbur the Kilb makes these fabulous designs and T-shirts. Let's see if we got any better internet here now. Let's reset everything. Hopefully it'll give me a little bit of a better swing here. Let's see. We're going to give it 5 seconds if it don't pull it up in 5 seconds. We're out, Google, and we're moving on to the next story.
I'm on YouTube right now, and I found a video
And we're moving on. Go ahead.
by a channel called I Did a Thing, and he made a spiky metal shell for a hermit crab. So put that on my list to watch later.
That actually sounds like a lot of fun.
Oh, Early Man is on YouTube for free to watch now. And Early Man is a video I've referenced multiple times. It's about cavemen playing soccer. But I'm telling you, it's so full of weird references and stuff. I have to look at it funny. But it's Wallace and Gromit. So it's got a hog named Hobnob. That's one of the best animal sidekicks. It's really funny. So I'm
Hobnob.
gonna watch that. Hobnob.
Well, you know what's interesting? You know, Tim, you mentioned to me something about journalism on the channel, and I told you, well, I'm not really a journalist. That's not really what I was looking to do. And then I had an anonymous source send me a video, but, well, I know who they are, but they wish to remain anonymous. But at any rate, I'm gonna have to do that story next week because it was, it was covered by the news, and then our source found something different and captured a video of it. And they sent it to me, but the link expired. They deleted the video, and they're going to have to re-upload it because they, did it securely or whatever. But at any rate, we are...
What's the topic?
We'll get into it next week. Because I don't want to tip anybody off. You know what I'm saying? I want to put the information out there. But it will be an interesting video because it does contradict the official story. And... we'll get that up next week. I wish I could say more and make it much more interesting. That's where it would, but I don't want to do anything until I have the story. Maybe I shouldn't even mentioned it at all. But I was just going through my email here trying to find the story that I was looking for, and we're going to go to I have to change the name of the video because I'm not going to do Twitter files tonight. Basically, they found out more information about how members of, well, I'll just tell you real quick. Members of Congress, including Adam Schiff, including Democrats and Republicans, were both using portals through, so it's not only the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, CIA, were all using Twitter to stifle dissent, censor opponents, and push narratives that were not true in order to propagandize the American people. Now it also goes to the House Select Committee on Intelligence and other members of the House. So journalist Paul Sperry was silenced by Congressman Adam Schiff from California. That was one of the main things about it. So this is showing not just the alphabet agencies, the intelligence agencies are using Twitter as a backdoor. Well, so is Congress. And we had 2 years ago, Dr. Shiva Dobraya, who was running for Senate in Massachusetts. He in the I think it was in the Republican primary up there. He has evidence, and he's got a current case going in federal court where they had a back panel. So he knew back in 2020, and he showed everybody back in 2020 that the government had this panel, this back door to be able to censor people on Twitter, and nobody did anything about it. And probably because they were all using it, Republicans and Democrats. That's why nothing came of it when he tried to get help. Dr. Shiva was running as a Republican, but he's basically an independent who knew he was never going to win as an independent, so he ran in the Republican primary, and turned out he ruffled so many feathers that they took him down. When he was I can't even say any more than that because they're going to even get into misinformation. But Dr. Shiva showed, if you want to look it up, Dr. Shiva, Massachusetts, he shows that there was a backdoor from the government to Twitter. So we've known this for 2 years at least. I mean, if you didn't already know this, maybe you need to be watching our channel more. But they were doing stuff like this for a long time. But now we've got evidence from Twitter after Elon Musk bought it that both sides were doing it to their political opponents, and that was the last thing in the Twitter files. Now I'm not going to keep the secrets. I'm not going to keep them spill. I swear. I just don't want to put this out there until I can actually show about it. So I will put that on there. But a friend of the channel got me an interesting video. So hopefully that'll have you come back Wednesday and see what it is. But let's see, political strategy via social media manipulation. Now, it's not surprising at all for those who are paying attention, but you got to remember, Spill, there's people out there who are like, I mean, you got to remember, Pumpkin, there's people out there who are like, well, but the government can't do that. That's against the Fourth Amendment. But what about my rights? They don't realize that the government isn't the business of violating rights. In fact, that's their main purpose now. And I think it'll surprise a lot of people, and to have it in black and white on paper and not hearing it from the crazy guy down the street, well, that's going to go a lot more. Yeah, right. Bless their hearts. Not hearing it from the crazy guy down the street, but to hear it from a legitimate source. Even though a lot of the media is not really touching it, but that's the thing. That's the beauty about this alternative media site, this alternative conversation site, this alternative discussion platforms, is there's all kinds of people like us all over the country having these same conversations. And so regular people who wouldn't normally hear that message are finding people that they trust in a forum like this, and people that they like and will listen to, and then they're being exposed to this kind of information. So I think that's one of the main things that's so important about alternative media and freedom of speech, and having platforms available to us that don't silence people. And that's why so many of the platforms want to silence us. So, but yeah, to have all that stuff public, with the releases of the Twitter files, we know that they've done all kinds of stuff to stifle people for political reasons, from everything from related to the COVID pandemic to political popularity contests. How's that? Because they're liable to strike me for it again for saying the word. But anyway, they are lots of Twitter files out there, 9 of them now, and I think the Fauci files are one of the next ones coming. So we'll get to see some of Fauci's contacts with Twitter, I'm sure, and some of the stuff he was doing to. Because if you remember, Twitter pulled down a whole bunch of doctors, and so did YouTube and Facebook. And just wait till people, I don't know that we'll ever see those, but the YouTube and Facebook files would be really the money shot, because a lot of these ideas start and spread on Twitter, but Facebook and YouTube are where they're really propagated. See anything about it, Tim?
What's that?
Any of that stuff I just talked about? Do you see anything about that in the news? You don't really watch the news, do you, that much?
I've not actively watched anything from the news. Uh, probably around the time I had Biden falling downstairs and stuff. Because I don't know, I don't like the emotional manipulation they try to use on people, and I do feel like a lot of it just is just theater to get you to do what you want. And if they can't pull on your brain on too much, then I feel I can control my emotions and my attitude a little bit better, because in the end, like like they're not going to control me. Like
No.
I don't have a side. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, so in the end, they're trying to like rile up Republican or Democrat or meet somebody in the middle. And since I'm not really in any of their demographic, there's no use in me knowing about nuclear missiles in South Korea. There's no real need for me to worry about what president's about to die, or what parliament member has AIDS, or you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't need to know all that stuff, because I'm not in the 1%. I'm not a royalty member. It's their world, and as long as I don't really, I feel like all that stuff that they show you on TV and the news and stuff is like their own little personal theater where they try to absorb your energy in the form of money and time. And if everybody would just stop paying attention and go back to farming potatoes and stuff, I think the whole shindig would be up, because it's all just pumping ritual, you know?
Well, I'm going to have to go ahead and disagree with you a little bit because, just going back to farming potatoes is what the folks did in China during the Cultural Revolution, and then they were forcibly moved into the cities and forcibly put onto these policies. And that's why I feel like, just look at the rate at which the technological superstate is advancing, and that is with people on the local levels that are starting to pay attention and try to thwart these operations. Um, so I think the answer lies somewhere in the middle. Although I definitely agree with most of what you said, because it's like, yeah, that's basically what the news is, and even the alternative media spaces is mostly, you'll have legitimate news sources who do reporting, and then you'll have partisan hacks on both sides who will take it and say, well, this report from Reuters shows that this that backs up my point, whichever side you're on, and they'll beat you in the face with it. And I think there's plenty of independent media, like I said, that's what mainstream media does. That's what Fox News, MSNBC, CNN, that's what all those things do. They point you in a certain direction. And I think there's plenty of independent media creators who also do that. So I think there's a happy medium, and that's what we try to bring you here, is a nuanced discussion of it. But let's take it seriously, and let's recognize that there are people who are trying. So if we stay by it and like don't draw any attention to it, it's hard to say that we can just passively go farm potatoes when they put each of these things closer and closer to your home. And whereas if we'd done something like, I don't know if y'all remember, but they were masking the kids up. They It was just happening. So it's like I said when we were talking about the show, man. It's like, it's not necessarily that I want to be the one to do this, but I just feel um like nobody went down there and talked about the kids wearing masks. Nobody. I had to be the one to go down there and yell at the school board and the council and shit, 3 times. I don't know if it had anything to do with them eventually up taking off this mask mandate off the kids, but this was, well into to the declared pandemic, and it was well after we'd already learned. What's that?
I think I think because most of the people that have kids enrolled in that school aren't watching and listening to the same kind of news,
Uh,
I guess would be my answer to that.
well,
I'm not really talking necessarily about that sort of thing that's actually on your door. I'm saying most of the stuff that we consume every week has nothing to do with anything. It's what somebody's personal opinion about this topic has in relation to that topic, that they somehow spin into a political topic that's meant to sell you Funyuns or something,
absolutely. Like you are.
And I just don't need to be a part of that whole debate when I could just very well go plant some potatoes. 'Cause I do like potatoes. I need potatoes.
Well, I think you should plant potatoes. Absolutely.
I don't need to know who's mad at Kanye West and who's mad at some country singer this week. I just don't care.
Fair point. No,
You know,
I'll just be honest. I enjoy that. As far as following national news and politics, and it does it does affect us, but realistically, you don't have much effect on it. And
I don't like being mad all the time,
yeah, oh
and
yeah,
that's what they want.
right. Well, yeah,
That's what they want.
definitely.
Absolutely, like it might not be the they like the mysterious Illuminati or whatever, but whoever's in charge of marketing and media have they figured out that anger and rage and it really fuels a lot of dollars to flow. And I don't know. I think I get more mad about watching how they're getting dollars out of people than I do actually get about because I don't really get emotionally manipulated by the
Tim
content.
hate
I get more mad about how many people that probably would have been televangelists back in the 80s are just now in news and media and stuff now.
yeah. Tim hates the grift. In other words,
Yes, and our grift is that's basically entertainment now. And I think that's why people really like they really like the nicer side of the internet so much, where it's content creators who aren't doing it for money.
yeah.
They're doing it because they like it, and then as soon as that content gets monetized, it gets really ruined. Um, Man, like, have you noticed one of the reasons, not one of the reasons, one of the minor reasons I don't like watching television shows anymore is because you're probably not getting a season two.
Yeah.
Like, if it's not a smash hit the size of the Sons of Anarchy or something like that, you're not getting a season two, and that just lets you know that the entire industry of film and all those film directors, they do not care about the substance of the show. That's a juvenile thing to worry about, but like if I'm putting anything into my brain, if I'm reading it or if I'm absorbing it like a video or something, I don't want to know that's absolute bullcrap. I don't want to know that going into it. And a lot of people are just okay absorbing things with no substance to whatsoever. But if you knew there wasn't going to be a season two, would you waste hours of your life for an entire month watching this show if you knew that they just weren't going to give you a season two?
That's a very good point. And
I mean, just
I know, I
simply
mean,
decide.
honestly, I can't disagree with anything that you said there. And the only slight disagreement I had was that you should ignore it all. But maybe that's okay for Tim. Um, I think it works for you. But because
You mean like ignoring
no, what I mean is that's how you keep it from poisoning your brain. That's what I mean. I don't mean to say that you're oblivious or anything like that. I'm saying you're stopping it from poisoning your brain, and a lot of us need to do that. And if more of us did that, you're probably right. I honestly, yeah, I think you're right. I think we got. I've changed my opinion. You've actually changed my mind because the more I think about it, we need less people paying attention in politics and less people voting. And because politics become the new pop culture really over the last several years, especially since COVID and the George Floyd. But before that, really, even in like the beginning of the Trump years is really when it started. Politics became pop culture. Well, during the run up to the Trump campaign, because as we talked about many times on this show before, when you were coming on, if you were posting anything about about politics on your Facebook back in like 2012, people had been on Facebook for several years now. They'd seen your shit. They were getting tired of it. They're like, keep your politics off my page. I don't want to see that shit. And then, as you got into the 2015 into the beginnings of the primary season for the 2016 election, that's we were inundated with it. And if you didn't, by the time 2020 rolled around, if you did not profess your politics vocally and publicly, then you could go eat shit. You better put the black square for your profile picture. You better, you better put the Ukraine flag. You better fall in line. And that used to be, it used to be more of like stuck with pop culture. You would fall in line on, and it wasn't forced, but like, music, art, popular culture was big. There was huge. There was one big movie at the time. And if you're going to watch a movie, like a movie, that was like the big movie. So you would watch that. And people were moved in that direction. But now it's like politics has become that thing which sways everybody. And it's all, instead of,
It's just in everything. Like you can't. Like I think a lot of people are like, as a third party person, I don't watch football, but everybody around me does watch football, so watch them watch football. I could tell that no one was mad about the BLM thing and the politics of the Democrat Party and stuff because of the politics itself. Everybody was just tired of having that thing that they used as an escape, aka
Yeah.
football. They wanted, like, however long a game is. They wanted like 2 or 3 hours where they could sit there and watch guys do really, athletic things, and they could pull for something where they didn't have to think about people getting shot, where they didn't have to think about a war, where they didn't have to think about what political party was doing what. And now I know the activist people would say, "Well, it's so important that we have to infect it." But man, you've lost everybody when you can't
Yeah.
give people 30 seconds of peace, like where they were putting Kamala Harris and Biden logos inside of Fortnite, like there was a billboard for political logos they're putting inside of children's games, and the kids started throwing tomatoes at it and stuff. And they were wondering why these kids were such juveniles inside of a game. It's like because you're ruining their game.
You're
They want to
invading their
build
space,
forts,
man.
and they want to look at your big ass sign. There's not even supposed to, they can't even vote yet. They don't want to worry about that. They're not even 18, and here you are putting a fucking sign in their thing. I really don't know. I wonder what the terminal tipping point is where people are just going to stop voting. Because like I'm so annoyed by all the politicians and stuff at this point where I almost get annoyed. That's one of the reasons I don't like watching the news is because you can't get away from it. Everywhere I go now, I hear a conversation in the background about the news because, like you said, politics is the new trendy thing. And it's like that's horrible because once upon a time, the new trendy thing, you could be mindless and talk about it. That's not something you can be mindless about. You sound stupid when you start talking mindless about politics.
Mhm.
I can sound stupid talking about Batman because if I didn't read episode 400 or something, but if you start talking about like world policy or something and you don't know what you're talking about, that really gets people twisted because they care about politics where somebody doesn't care if I like Batman or not.
Yeah.
I think that's really what got everybody so pissed off is something that people actually care. But can you imagine if like religion became the new trendy thing? Everybody would definitely start fighting because everybody would pick something that is a hinge pin for their entire existence.
Yeah. So to concur with you further, less people should vote. And I think we'd be a lot better off. But
I don't know. I don't know if less people should vote. I just think less people should have to be involved in it all the time.
Yeah.
Like shorter election cycles. Don't you know how like the once upon a time, like with separation of church and state was supposed to be the big thing that saved us over here. Man, they need to do some kind of like separation of entertainment and state. Get
no shit.
Get Hollywood,
Here.
and that includes the Christian music industry. It includes all of it. Get the entertainment, get Hollywood, get the music business, get the big streaming sites, get big tech. Do not let the state be involved with people that make you go ha ha ha,
I'll drink to
or
that.
make you recreationally cry or be upset. That's stupid. It's the same thing as church.
Yeah.
Don't let them be involved in education either.
Yeah, a lot of people are
Separate everything.
A lot of people are saying that the new religion was going to be science and the green new religion, but it's almost like the new religion is politics and virtue signaling, because most of the people, it's like I care. That's all politics is. I care about this. I care about this. You don't care about. I care more, and meanwhile, we're all over here getting screwed. That's popular politics anyway. That's the way they use our care against us. But
I think that appeal to science is pretty weird.
what's that?
Like the appeal to science, how weird it is for me because like appealing, like turning science into your new god is such a it's a weird concept in itself to me. Like, but then it kind of made sense to me at the same time too because I guarantee you a lot of people that have done this pedestalization of science and turned it into a god are kind of like the same people that over pedestalize their own book. Because I don't want to take a dump on Christians or anything, but like, because that's the only group of people that I can really relate to because I know so many of them. But I'm sure it's the same in about every religion. Growing up, I was very serious about reading that book. I read it many times. I was very serious about what it meant and what you were supposed to do. And it would really make me mad because I could tell a lot of the other people that were involved in churches and stuff, not only did they not really care what it was, this was just a part of their life, they didn't even know that they'd been grown up in church their entire life. And they really fundamentally didn't know anything about the Bible. They'd just been phoning it in this whole time. How many people are doing that with politics and science, where they're
Most of
just
them.
go along with it? They've got this book that they're basing their entire life on, and they've never even read it. And it's the same thing with politics and science.
Most of them. But yeah, I think you make a good point there. But I think what was the first thing you said there? Oh, well, the point is lost out of my mind. It's washed away in the court liquor. Go what?
Said the first thing I said there was hamsters have violent sex.
Oh yeah, that's right. That politics is that it's become similar to the religion, and yeah.
Separate. That's what I'm talking about.
What's that?
Just separate everything. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
Separate church or state entertainment.
I'll agree with that for sure. Definitely. Let's see here. I do want to hit this other story. So did you hear about, and did you hear anything about Biden's visit down to Puerto Rico?
No.
Okay. Well, we're going to read a story here. I was going to read it. Okay, I'll just tell you real quick. Governor Lee down in Nashville. This thing is pretty quick. I think you'll have a good comment on this, Tim, so I do want to do this real quick before we go on to that story. But Governor Lee named a new Department of Corrections commissioner because they had a lethal injection review. And do you know what the lethal injection review was over?
Was it a prisoner?
Well, here's the thing. They didn't follow the proper protocol, the Tennessee Department of Corrections, administering a lethal injection to kill a prisoner convicted by a jury of his peers and sentenced to death for only the most heinous crimes get the death penalty. I mean, heinous. A lot of times people, complain that people don't get the death penalty. So you got to do something really bad to get the death penalty. I'm not, at least nowadays anyway. Back in the day, they would throw the hands of those things out like candy. And I'm not a fan of the death penalty on account of I don't trust the state to determine 100% that somebody has. There should always be okay, if the state was wrong, there should always be, because the state's often wrong and the state's often corrupt. So there should always be a way out for you. Even if that's 40 years in the future, they find out you didn't do it. You can't do that with the death penalty.
You don't think ever?
What's that?
Said you don't think ever?
What?
Like, I'm not. Like you said that there should be a way out in case they prove it was you, and like I am a non-killy person. I don't know what the definition is. I'm not a pacifist in the sense that if you punch me, I'm not going to kick you in the balls and take advantage of that. I'm a pacifist in the sense that I don't like, violence for no reason or whatever. A part of going through psychology is like, especially when you get into like abnormal psych, they make you watch a lot of like crime documentaries and criminal behavior. Like, and I've done this in my own time too, because I've just been fascinated by like when they'll film an inmate when they don't really think about like long film content where the inmate forgets they're being filmed or something like that. I know maybe this sounds devilish, and maybe I'm the devil for saying it. Like, I'm not so sure that some incarnations of the human form need to stay here. Like, they're only going to make the rest of the humankind suffer. And it's like, which is better, to lock that thing up in a steel box and feed it for 45 years until it dies? Or is it better just to zappy? Or, I mean, in my opinion, I think it'd be much more humane to put, like, if they said, hey buddy, do you want 10 million volts of electricity in the odd sense that we forget to wet the sponge and you really suffer, or do you want 2 nines in your head? I'd take the nines, man. I'd take the gunshots to the head before I'd take that chair, and it's cheaper.
Yeah, no, I definitely get that. That's why I said I'm not a fan of the death penalty. I mean, I'm not 100% against it, to be honest. If it's a case like that, where somebody unapologetically confesses to it or something like that, or you have, it happens in front of a crowd of people or something like that, some sort of heinous crime. My thing is, like, even video evidence can easily be faked now. You've seen that video with, like, the guy, his face is switching to, like, Jim Carrey and Woody Harrelson, like the deep fake, and it looks just like him. And
yes.
There's the Jack Nicholson video of the guy sitting on the couch turning into Jack Nicholson, Jim Carrey turning into Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, but under the odd chance that they tried to like, use that technology to get me in a Running Man situation, I don't know if I would be willing to risk that to let all the criminals just never have death sentences or something. Of
Well,
course, then again, I guess life in prison is the option or whatever. But like I said, like I mean, and like barring it's not like political dissidents and stuff like that. How often is that technology going to be used to get people?
well, here's the thing, man. I mean, it's a new technology, but just like cell phones were new, 20 years ago, now everybody's got one that's like one of the most advanced supercomputer. 10
Yeah,
even 10 years ago, your Dollar General cell phone would have been like the most advanced supercomputer in the world from 1990.
yeah.
So it's just a matter of time before that technology becomes widely available, and I'm going to set you up for something. Well, then I commit a crime, and then I send the police a copy. So either they're going to convict you on fake videos, or it's just nobody's ever going to trust video evidence again. Either way, one of those things is coming. But either way, my whole thing is it's got to be overwhelming and undeniable evidence for a death
There's
penalty.
other things out there, like the video evidence is not enough.
No,
Like
no, no, no.
because,
Yeah, you're right.
for example, for example, you can catch someone based on the GPS data in their cell. Like, there's other things that would line up with the crime. So if there was
Yeah,
just, a video of somebody doing something, like I know that's a pain in the ass to have to prove that you didn't kill a guy in Paris when you weren't even over there or some
yeah.
crazy nonsense. Maybe that's what the future holds. Uh, I don't know. It's just an interesting commentary when you watch enough criminal documentaries to realize that every other species kind of will selectively kill off parts of their tribe to protect the tribe as a whole.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe I am too big of a softy to admit that there is a level of cruelty that is necessary for the human hive to have for it to survive. I'm just not at a place where I'm comfortable discussing that yet, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I want to do this last story. I swear, I'm glad we talked about that a little bit, but I want to do this last story where oh yeah, I didn't even tell you. I didn't even tell you why they cut it off. Okay, so get this. They cut it off and they had the big problem with it is because there was bacteria growing in the lethal injection thing. They didn't follow proper protocol in 2018, and they didn't test the. They're basically the government didn't tell the pharmacy that it should conduct an endotoxin test on the medication that they were using. The medication, I'm calling it, the fucking poison that they're using to kill people on death row, was not tested for bacteria. Was not tested for bacteria. Not that it had bacteria, although it could have. But who cares? I mean, the whole point of this drug is to kill this person. What does? I know we're living in a clown world, but how is that? How do you lose your job for that, man? That's a bitch right there. Fired from being the head of the Department of Corrections because you didn't tell the pharmacy that they should test. Because you didn't tell the pharmacy that they should test the lethal injection drugs for bacteria. What do you think about that, Tim? Bless their hearts.
I think I've made about all I've had to say on the death penalty.
Bacteria, Tim. They don't want to. They won't want to expose the death row inmate, the convicted murderer, to bacteria.
Do you think it's more about they don't want all the bacteria cycling through all the stuff or something?
I don't know, but it doesn't. I don't have any idea, but it doesn't make any sense to me. But I just feel like this has got to be one of those. Okay, don't get me wrong. The what do you call it? ACLU has done some really important work in protecting human rights, protecting free speech rights. but I feel like there's something like that connected, American Civil Liberties Union connected to a lawsuit that sued the state of Tennessee over injecting somebody with some bacteria. That's just my personal, um, idea for what might have happened. I don't know what actually happened, but that just seems crazy to me. But let's do the last story here. The U.S. Virgin Islands, this is from PBS.org, NewsHour Nation. U.S. Virgin Islands fires Attorney General in Jeffrey Epstein cases. So, I think it was, hey, I know, I'll show you a meme here. It's a fun one. Old Jonesy, he's done it again. I say that because Alex Jones was one of the first people to publicly talk about the Epstein case. He was talking about who Jeffrey Epstein was and who he's connected to many, many years ago. I mean, I'm talking a decade ago. We got December. Well, we're gonna read these in order. Should have put in order here, but I see why they did it the way they did. But the first one, he's got December 30th. Epstein's sex trafficking was aided by J.P. Morgan, a U.S. Virgin Islands lawsuit said. So they sue the U.S. attorney Attorney General from Virgin Islands sues J.P. Morgan Chase for aiding and abetting, allegedly, the trafficking going on by Jeffrey Epstein. Well, we go fast forward. This was actually on the 30th, right? But the way this meme is set up is to fit the Alex Jones thing here, so whatever. But December 27th, Biden arrives at the U.S. Virgin Islands to relax before the holidays. And then it shows January 2nd. Alex's eyes are getting red. He's reaching, super ape mode here. Virgin Islands Attorney General loses her job days after suing J.P. Morgan Chase in connection with the Jeffrey Epstein probe. So at first glance, the person who's not paying that much attention is going to say, "Oh wow, it looks like because the way they have these things ordered. Let's look at them again. That this lady sued, and then Biden arrives, and then she loses her job. But what actually happened here? Oh, sorry, I keep making that go away. What actually happened, if we look at the things in chronological order, December 27th, Biden arrived at the U.S. Virgin Islands. December 30th, the Epstein sex trafficking was aided by J.P. Morgan, a U.S. Virgin Islands lawsuit says. And then December 30th, from December 30th to January 2nd, Virgin Islands Attorney General loses her job days after suing J.P. Morgan in connection with Jeffrey Epstein case. So if you look at those in chronological order, they don't make any sense. Because at first glance, you see that, there's the lawsuit, then Biden arrives, and then she loses her job, but that's not what happened. Biden arrives, then there's the lawsuit filed, and then the lady loses her job. Let's check out a little bit about from PBS what some of the details here. Governor Albert Bryan Jr. did not provide a reason for relieving Georgia of her duties in a statement Sunday, saying only that she would be replaced by Assistant Attorney General Carol Thomas Jacobs. Now, the governor's spokesperson, Richard Moda, he did not return a message for comment. So that's pretty odd right there, right? You'd think if they had a good reason to relieve that lady of her duty, then they would have been glad to tell the press about it. Let's look a little bit further here. In the lawsuit filed against J.P. Morgan Chase on December 27th, the government of the U.S. Virgin Islands alleges the company knowingly facilitated, sustained, and concealed the human trafficking network operated by Jeffrey Epstein from his home and base in Virgin Islands, and financially benefited from this participation, directly or indirectly, by failing to comply with federal banking regulations. Now, we've seen stuff like this before. We've actually seen, civil suits. People get sued and have to pay civil fines. Like Pfizer got fined $2.1 billion for, one of the biggest lawsuits in all time for fraudulently marketing a drug, I believe it was. Honestly, I don't remember off the top of my head what it was they got filed for. or if it was an injury or what it was. So I don't want to misinform you. But anyway, it was the biggest suit against a plaintiff of any kind. So sometimes these things do actually go through, and sometimes these big companies do get caught. But I thought this was pretty interesting because first of all, she's filing that this is Epstein. We know who all Epstein's connected to, right? We've seen some of the flight list. There's not all of them been revealed, but there are some big names on it. Yeah, I mean, if you want to look it up, go look it up. You'll have to be a little diligent in your research. I'm not going to name the names on it on here, but not all of them anyway. But you know, Bill Clinton, Bill Gates are pretty public. You know, and then you've got some of the others who it's contested. There's been fake lists released, so I don't want to get into too many of the other ones, but go check it out. I mean, it's Kevin Spacey, Chris Tucker, and there's a whole lot more, but you'll have to be diligent when you look at these lists. Go ahead.
So the only one I do remember was Lawrence Krauss, the physicist. I always thought that was a weird one.
Yeah. Well, word is that Epstein was recruiting these scientists and trying to get them blackmailed too. As like we talked about, I mean, for anybody who doesn't know, I mean, it should be pretty obvious, but Epstein was not just having parties down here and enjoying himself. What he was doing was entrapping people, blackmailing them, getting them, catching them, telling them you want to come party for a night in the Virgin Islands with the big boys, and then get you drunk, get the politicians, the scientists, the industrialists on camera, performing, you know, taking indecent liberties with someone underage, and then you've got them blackmailed, and you can basically get them to do whatever you want unless they, you know, comply with your wishes. And it was reported that there was a whole safe full of photographs, discs, all kinds of evidence like this found. Can't remember if it was at Epstein's mansion or if it was at his island, but either way, the FBI found a safe full of this stuff and nothing. We've not heard anything from it. Now, I'll go ahead and, you know, a lot of people like to go out there and say, you know, grandstand on the Epstein issue, but here's the thing. If Epstein really is connected, if it really is what it appears to be, and Epstein has blackmail on high-level politicians and celebrities, influencers, industrialists, scientists, okay, guys, let's stop for a minute. They're not going to be able to just fly in and arrest them overnight. So everybody who's like, oh, they're not listing, you know, releasing the client list, they're not. Well, for one, Ghislaine, I think, is the ringleader of the thing, and maybe they did get her. But she's connected to high enough people that she just doesn't talk, and she knows she can sit in a country club prison, and she's going to be fine. Epstein may have had ideas that he was going to talk to somebody. He was going to release some of this information. And Ghislaine she might be the boss of this particular ring, but she's working for somebody too. Her father, Robert Maxwell, was tied with British intelligence, Israeli intelligence, and prominent in the publishing industry. And, you know, when he mysteriously died, well, she then, you know, hooked herself up to another money person and basically used him to facilitate the operation, it seems like to me. But anyway, the U.S. Virgin Islands, where Little St. James Islands that Jeffrey Epstein owns, and where the famous temple is, and where he supposedly flew the Long Island or the Lolita Express in. I was thinking of the Long Island Lolita, Amy Fisher, where he, you know, flew the underage people in and trafficked them and exploited them, and most likely, you know, blackmailed politicians and other prominent people. They said that J.P. Morgan Chase knew that he was doing this and still facilitated the transaction. And if you remember HBSC, they did the same thing with, you know, drug cartels. They were gladly facilitating the transactions of drug cartels, laundering the money. They got convicted of it, but nobody really gets in trouble. The corporation pays like $2.3 billion, and then it's all a thing of the past. It's done and over with. So the lawsuit says that human trafficking was the principal business of the accounts Epstein maintained at J.P. Morgan. So that was all his J.P. Morgan, according to the government, of course, was everything he was doing there was for human trafficking. And they knew this, and they also knew who, according to the lawsuit, that Epstein was connected to because of his financial footprint and the deals and clients that he brought and promised to the bank. They didn't do anything about it. So basically, he brought them so much business and money that they, felt like they couldn't say no. J.P. Morgan Chase declined to comment in a message to the Associated Press. And on the 30th of December, J.P. Morgan Chase asked that the federal judge throw out the lawsuits by two unidentified women alleging that the big bank should have seen evidence of Epstein's sex trafficking. The bank says it didn't commit any negligent acts. So, Biden, he came down on the 27th, right? So the meme makes it look like they filed the lawsuit, Biden came down, and then the lady was fired. But it didn't intentionally. Left whoever made this meme or infographic or whatever you call it, left the dates in there. So let's think about this. If Biden went down on the 27th, then the lawsuit is filed on the 30th, and then the lady's fired on the 2nd. I'd say, now this is just my spidey sense tingling a little bit here, but I feel like Biden got wind. Somebody let him know.
You can't even have a sentence. Biden didn't get wind of shit. Somebody sent him down there.
Okay. Yeah, basically, yeah. So Biden is, he's the front man for the group. But whoever, somebody knew this lawsuit was coming. They heard it through the grapevine. They send Biden down there. He tells her, "Hey, look, bitch, you shut this shit down or you're out of here." And then she says, "No, I'm filing it anyway." And she files the thing on the 30th. And then the 2nd, well, son of a bitch, she got fired. That's my personal theory. I don't have any evidence for that. But, this article doesn't also mention that. But it also says that Epstein killed himself in a federal jail in August of 2019 in New York. He had pleaded not guilty to charges of sexually abusing dozens of girls, some as young as 14. Ghislaine was convicted, did 20 years, and we still don't know, who was on the list. But like I said, I'm not saying they're building a big case against these people. I have no idea. But I understand why people do it. They don't want you to forget that they did this. So they're trying to get people mad about it, and it makes sense. It's worth being mad about. Don't forget that this shit goes on. But
Won't forget about all of it just to be thoughtful, because I think they want us to sit there and think about trafficking. So I'm not going to think about none of it.
Well, that's probably a good plan. But my whole thing is, man, if they are doing something about it, and like I said, I'm a little bit white-pilled. I really do have faith in humanity. I really do have faith in the people who live in this country, not the politicians. But I have to feel like there are people out there who still believe in good and still believe in right. And with as much evidence of what was going on, especially after they got Ghislaine, maybe she did talk. Maybe they do have, they have the book, they have the pictures, they have the evidence. They got Ghislaine, they put her in jail. Maybe she didn't talk, but they got to have everything. I mean, if they got Epstein, you think about how many people, prominent people that went down to that island. If you got Clinton, I think you got it all. And I think it's a good sign that none of that stuff has leaked, because if they're prosecuting it and they mean business about it, it's going to take a long time to prosecute all that. And two, the sign that we don't know that it's happening would be a good sign. Now, I'm not saying that's happening. I don't know, but I'm just saying let's keep it on our radar, and let's recognize, that it did happen, and let's not forget about it. Let's not let them bury it with all the other stuff, but let's also give them a little time to work. It's complicated to build a case against somebody who has the best lawyers in the world that will actually stick. You just think about, it's all about lawyers really when you get to the top of the game. Whether you did it or didn't do it is almost irrelevant. It's whose lawyer can play the system the best to get you off of there, and then once you're exonerated, you're exonerated. So I think they have to really make their case if they're going to do anything with this. if they're going to make any of it stick. So let's keep an eye on it. Let's keep talking about it. But let's not get obsessed about it. Let's not, well, what about the Epstein quiet list? Well, actually, I don't care if you do that, but I'm not going to do that. But anyway, I don't really have anything else tonight. I appreciate y'all joining us. Spill the tea knows how they do. Yep. She's right there with us, I think. It's like Tim said. When we get on Rumble, when we get to the Rumble crowd, the Rumble crowd mostly knows what's up. But I'm really trying to reach out to the people who necessarily don't know what's up, but who, might care if they did know what's up. So if we can reach you on YouTube and move you to Rumble where we can really get into it, and we can really keep the conversation going, that's ideal. But for right now, we'll keep talking on YouTube, keep doing what we can here, and like I said, I'm hopeful, and I don't want to be talking doom and gloom all the time. I want to be talking about fun things too. This is somewhere for me to. I'm a musician. I haven't been doing much music, so it's kind of a place for me to express myself a little bit too. So, one format or another, it's got to come out of me. So I appreciate you joining me with it, and I appreciate Tim being a part of it too. Have a really good time with it, and it gets easier and easier as we do it. And Tim, I'll let you give us anything you have tonight before we get out of here. But see you. Good night, Spill.
Episode 1 of the Thundercats also briefly features a soccer ball. So at some point in time, we're going to have to discuss why soccer is evil.
It's because it's the pattern of the neutrons fired in on the core of the first plutonium
It's the oldest
bomb.
game. It's the sacred game.
It's true.
The Thundercat game.
That's true.
Thundercats, the secret history of the Illuminati.
Thundercats, Highlanders, they're the same.
That is episode 1 of the Iron Mountain Hour. And at some point in time, I'm going to unleash a whole series of it.
Bro, you have not finished that thought, and you're right. That was in the first episode, and you owe it to us to complete that thought.
Well, it'll take over the whole series once we do.
That's all right.
Because into it and people see that it's the truth, they're never going to want to hear the word Fauci ever again. They're going to be, every time you try to bring up anything, they'll be like, no, get back to the Thundercats theories, because we need to know more.
Well, Tim, you're a pretty smart guy, and you got a good mind.
Oh, no.
Do what?
I don't want to be smart. I want to be interesting than smart.
Well,
Smart people, sad.
Well, what I mean is you and smart, I guess, is just I guess that was a lazy way of me to put it. You're very insightful, and you look at things from a lot of different angles, and you can present them in from a lot of different perspectives. Whereas, I feel like I have a somewhat unique. I'm not, I'm nothing special, but I'm just saying I'm looking at things a little bit differently from most of the people that I encounter. And so I feel like it's almost like I'm seeing the large brain take of it in my mind, and then Tim is seeing the galaxy brain take to me, because Tim looks past it and even further to something and that I don't see a lot of times as far as the meta of the whole thing. And
That's usually what it is.
do what?
It's just a symptom of boredom.
Well, either way, it works out great for the show, and it works out great for me, for trying to, because I'm always trying to be more insightful and learn, and Tim helps me look at things in a different way, and I appreciate that, and I hope you appreciate it too. I hope you appreciate what we both bring to the table, and Dustin as well. And if you like a pun, you can't go wrong with Dustin. So definitely come back and see us on Sunday. I am thinking, dude, what would y'all think about, if anybody's still in the chat, what would y'all think about doing an Antichrist show? Tim, I know that'd be a good one for you. You growing up in an end times cult.
Yeah, we can do it.
I think that'd be
We can
fun,
do
man.
both.
It's been on my mind a little bit since we were looking into Esoteric New Year's, and then I watched on, quite frankly, show I've mentioned on here a few times, last night. Yeah, he had a guest. Gosh, I think his name was Sean Albert or something. But his show is called The Secret Teachings. Now I can't even think of his name now. But the show is called The Secret Teachings, And it was like it was a moment of synchronicity, and I think I've described it on the channel before. I know I've talked to you about it, Tim, that I've had with the creator of that show, Frank Valbiro, on the Quite Frankly show. And it's almost like I'll be thinking of something, and then he'll do a show, and then I'll be thinking, he'll do a show, and then it'll be something that I just did the night before. So we've kind of been going back and forth on these things with that channel. So if you like this channel, I think you'd really enjoy. Quite frankly, it comes on. You can get it on pretty much anywhere that there is streaming. It's on every weekday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 7 to 9. Honestly, that's one of the reasons that I didn't start the show until later. I didn't know whether I wanted to do 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. But I was like, I feel like, Quite Frankly's audience is going to be somebody who really enjoys this show. So, yeah. You listen to Frank? Hell yes, Bill. Yeah, I feel like Frank's audience is gonna be somebody who enjoys this show. So I didn't want to do the show while he was on, and well, I like to listen to it too. So I don't want to do it while this show's on. But he and I kind of have some kind of synchronicity going on, and like I said, a lot of times I'll think about things, and then he'll do a show, or he'll do a show. I'll do a show, and then he'll follow up with the show on the same thing. And anyway, he had this guy on from the Secret Teachings a couple days after we talked about an hour about the book called The Secret Teachings of All Ages, and um, they were talking about the Antichrist, and it got me thinking about a whole lot of the different theories I've heard the Antichrist over the years. And I didn't grow up in an end times church, but I grew up in Methodist, Baptist, Christian, and Presbyterian churches through all the different friends that I went through, and I heard different takes on all these things. And then I told you I thought I met an angel in high school, and anyway, I think it'd be an interesting discussion, and I think the audience would enjoy it a lot. And I learned some new things that I'd like to present to you from the show with Quite Frankly, from the host of the Secret Teachings. So anyway, I think that's what we might do this Sunday. We'll talk about the Antichrist. And I appreciate you joining us. I hope you'll subscribe on Rumble. I hope you'll like the video, rumble the video on Rumble. And I hope you'll join us Sunday to get in there. Email us at theironmountainhour@gmail.com and comment on the video and give us a chat. We'd love to see you there. That's about all I got. You out of here, Tim? What you think?
Oh no, I ended on Thundercats.
All right. Well, the Thundercats is coming. Get ready for it, y'all. We'll see you Sunday. Yeah, you did. Good night, Spill.